When the sun comes up on America, across open fields, small towns, and city streets, a new day begins. And here, we rise with it. This is where hard work meets headlines, where truth matters, and America wakes up informed.
An interesting week.
They all are.
This is your country. This is your morning. This is Daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. America, let's do it together.
Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
And it starts right now.
All right, let's roll right into another big day. It's Tuesday. Nice to see you as we kick off this day. Glad to have you on board. Fighting for you from the foxhole freedom in the relentless pursuit of truth. Three big things this hour. Number one, Graham Platner seems to have another new scandal every day. We learned yesterday that he has an active account on a platform called Kick. It's a hookup app with the majority of people between 13, you heard me right, and 24. Number two, President Trump says the negotiations with Iran are moving at a fast pace, despite what is being said in Tehran, but we still don't have a deal. We're 90 days in. When it started, he said 2 or 3 weeks. We'll talk about that. And number three, for decades, Americans have carried a deep, long-standing distrust in government's care for its people. We've watched as Washington let Big Pharma rake in billions while chronic disease exploded. They cashed in treating disease, not preventing it. We've seen our kids get sicker, obesity, diabetes, allergies, autism rates climbing, while bureaucrats pushed more processed junk, more shots, more meds, and more screen addiction. Families felt abandoned, trust eroded. But President Trump and his MAHA team is working to change all of that through the Make America Healthy Again agenda led by Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at HHS. They're delivering real root cause solutions. Promises made and promises kept. America's getting a bit healthier and stronger and freer. Look at our food supply. For years, ultra-processed garbage filled with artificial dyes, seed oils, and chemicals dominated store shelves and school lunches. And any medical expert worth their salt knows this is hurting us. Here's a medical director with just a short laundry list of the problems these foods can cause. Listen to this.
We're talking about those foods that are processed, full of dyes, full of seed oils, that are easily accessible and highly palatable. So what we find is that these foods are not only negatively impacting our gut, but because our gut sends signals to our brain, they're causing brain inflammation as well. And not only that, what we're finding at Amen clinics is that because the gut has a lot of those chemicals that keep your mood stable, called neurotransmitters, that processed foods are leading to more high levels of mental health imbalances and depression, as well as focus problems.
Okay, so
But MAHA is flipping the script. Dozens of major companies, including names like Walmart, Hershey, and Nestle, have now committed to removing artificial dyes and synthetic colors from their products. That's real momentum sweeping the industry. And it's empowering entrepreneurs like Tony Robbins to speak out and do something about it. Here he is.
It's pure poison. So what's happened at the food banks, I send them produce, fresh produce, which has a limited time, but they get a lot of day-old bakery, they get a lot of canned goods, and not enough protein. And the food pyramid was changed, not just to focus on protein, which we desperately need, but also so we don't eat those processed foods that are killing us. And so that's why we partner with HHS to make this happen. So they provided some of the funds for the refrigeration. We're providing all the way to process this food, and then the entire industry is stepping up. So, Chick-fil-A gets all the white meat. Nobody wants the dark meat. So we get that for next to nothing, and now we distribute that to all the places which need. So all the people most in need will have it.
And the commercial world is responding even faster than government. For example, Steak and Shake. They're going all in, switching to 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef starting this month, cooking fries and more in pure beef tallow instead of seed oils, using real butter, and simplifying recipes. They have even hired the chief MAHA officer for their company. This isn't some niche health spot. It's a classic American chain leading to change. Parents can now take their kids for a burger that actually nourishes instead of inflames. Now, that is the power of MAHA inspiring the private sector. The Tennessee Titans are doing the same in pro sports. Here's Coach Robert Saleh announcing one of their first moves.
Yeah, no, well, 100%.
I thought one of the first things I think we did here is get rid of all the seed oils in the building, and which I think the players appreciate. I know we've Miss Amy has allowed us to attack the budget and get the players better variety. I think I'll put our staff, and I mean that I've been in 6 different buildings, and I'd put this staff up there with the best of them. I mean the product they put out in the cafeteria daily is outstanding.
Now, players are appreciating it because they feel better, recover faster, and perform at peak levels without inflammatory junk. If NFL teams are ditching seed oils for better health, imagine what that means for your family dinner table tonight. MAHA isn't just policy, it's cultural. It's reshaping how America eats. And you don't need to wait on corporations or the government to right the ship. You can plant a garden. Raise some chickens, do your part, much like the 20 million American families and individuals who planted a victory garden during the Second World War. Those gardens, by the way, ended up producing 40% of the nation's fresh produce that year. We traded that kind of independence for canned food off grocery store shelves. It doesn't have to be that way. I've got my own garden. We're tending a couple dozen chickens ourselves. There's something particularly rewarding about working your own soil with your own hands and getting to reap the benefits. I encourage you to try it if you don't already. On the industrial scale, MAHA is protecting American farmland, too, because food security is national security. The Trump administration launched the National Farm Security Action Plan, cracking down on foreign adversaries, especially China, from buying up our prime agricultural land. And now we're keeping American farmland in American hands, supporting our farmers, ensuring we control our own food production. No more selling out our heartland. Paired with this, the USDA just rolled out the Great American Cotton Plan. It is a bold initiative to revitalize cotton farming, boost domestic textile manufacturing, expand trade, and increase demand for American-grown cotton. Here's Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins with just how dire things were under Joe Biden. Listen to her.
But what has happened over the last, we'll say, decade or so is the foreign fake synthetic material has become so prolific and so cheap that we have been moving away from great American cotton for years. And then Joe Biden, of course, took his eye off the ball. Do you realize under Joe Biden's watch, we lost our market in soybeans, we lost our market in corn, we lost our market in beef, and then they took over. We used to be the greatest exporter in the world of cotton. Brazil took that over in 2022. This is national security level implications. This isn't just good for the farmers and we want good cotton. If we begin to rely on these other countries for food, for fiber, for fuel, we lose our country.
Yeah. Do you think Joe Biden took his eye off the ball, or could he even see it? This plan is putting farmers first, creating rural jobs, promoting natural fibers over synthetic junk that sheds microplastics. This ties directly into MAHA: healthier soil, healthier farms, healthier people. Natural cotton over plastic pollution. That's an America First policy all the way. And we're going to talk about the policy fronts and the MAHA Commission and what it's delivering. Over 120 initiatives in the Make Our Children Healthy Again strategy target the real drivers: poor diet, environmental toxins, lack of movement, stress, and over-medication. We'll talk about SNAP when I come back, because that's another big part of this issue going forward. SNAP should help children, not make them fat and sick. Good morning. Welcome to Daybreak. Well, SNAP reforms are expanding. Another part of MAHA. States like Iowa leading with landmark MAHA legislation and federal waivers let more states pull soda, candy, and ultra-processed junk from the benefits list. We're incentivizing real food in schools and expanding farm-to-school programs, as we should. RFK Jr. is overhauling our government agencies, forcing them to pay attention to the poison that is killing us. He was shocked at the ignorance of many of our nation's so-called experts when he first stepped into his new role. Here's what he said.
We are revising the GRAS standards to ensure that FDA, for the first time, knows what chemicals are in our food. When I came in, I asked FDA how many chemicals are in our food, and they said, well, we don't know. We don't have a list of them. It's somewhere between 4,000 and 12,000, and that's because the industry hijacked the GRAS standard and added all these chemicals. In Europe, they only have 400 chemicals in their food. And the 9,600 actual ones that we have are all illegal there.
All illegal over there. It's frightening, isn't it? Vaccine policy got a serious overhaul, too. HHS streamlined childhood recommendations down to core consensus vaccines, emphasizing transparency, informed consent, and choice over mandates. No more one-size-fits-all from bureaucrats who ignored side effects for too long. We're focusing on prevention through nutrition and lifestyle, not just pharmaceuticals to treat the symptoms. We're also fighting the screen time epidemic head-on. Secretary Kennedy and HHS issued the first ever Surgeon General's advisory and warning on excessive screen use. It highlights the damage: poor sleep, less physical activity, attention problems, mental health struggles, and addiction-like behaviors engineered into apps. Kids are spending more time on screens than they do in school. MAHA is pushing families, schools, and tech companies to act, get kids outside, moving, playing, and connecting in the real world. Sunshine, exercise, real food. That's the prescription for strong bodies and sharp minds. Healthcare costs are coming down as we shift from sick care to true prevention. Drug pricing negotiations continue with America First approaches, too. We're scrutinizing pesticides, fluoride, and environmental toxins while promoting metabolic health education. States across the country, over 3 dozen, are passing their own MAHA-inspired laws. This is a national movement, not just a decree from D.C. Contrast that with the old regime. They gaslit parents worried about their kids' health. They protected corporate profits over American vitality. And the pandemic really highlighted just how far the experts and professionals will go in lying to the public to prop up whatever narrative they want. RFK Jr. says enough of that. Here he is.
And during COVID, we saw something that had a long runway, which was that the government was not always telling the truth to the American public, that science was being manipulated, that the messages that people were openly, regulatory officials at the highest level were openly telling what they called noble lies in order to get the public to do something that they genuinely thought that they ought to be doing. They would misstate the data, and we're not doing that anymore. We're telling the public now, and if you've watched what we're doing over the past 15 months, we tell them what we know and what we don't know. We're changing our websites so that we acknowledge that there are gaps in the information, and we're not going to fill them by lying to people. We're going to fill them by doing the research that should have been done.
Yeah. President Trump and the MAHA team said enough. We're draining the swamp in health. Results are showing food companies changing formulas, restaurants upgrading ingredients, sports teams prioritizing performance through real nutrition, farmers empowered, and families regaining trust. This is bigger than one initiative. MAHA builds stronger kids who become, stronger adults. It means a more resilient workforce, lower medical costs, and a nation ready to compete and lead. It restores faith that government can actually work for the people again by getting out of the way of natural health and common sense while targeting the real threats. We're just getting started. More companies will follow Steak and Shake and the Titans. More states will join the initiative. More families, like yours, will choose real food, less screen time, and more vitality. Under President Trump's leadership, America is becoming healthy, wealthy, and strong once more. Join us. Demand better food. Get your kids outside more. Support American farmers, small farmers as well, to make America healthy again. Because when our people thrive, America thrives like never before. And that is so important. If you deal with pain or knee pain, joint pain, or stiffness, especially when you're driving or sitting for long stretches, just listen to this. You can't take a medical treatment bed with you on the road, but you can keep the QE red light therapy wand in your glove box or in your purse. This handheld device uses red and infrared light combined with proprietary quantum energy technology to target pain right where it hurts. No pills, nice. No appointments, just simple targeted relief that you can use anytime. And I love how portable it is. And it's easy to use in just minutes a day. All you need to do is go to QEstrong.com, use the promo code Gruber, get the QE wand for under $100. Can you believe that? That's QEstrong.com, promo code is Gruber. You can get this wand for less than $100, which is pretty remarkable. Quick update on your morning commute. It's cheaper today than it was yesterday. Again, gas down to $4.29 from $4.32 yesterday. National average, of course.
I saw $3.93.
You saw $3.93.
Yep.
Well, Indiana's $3.62 as an average, but still less than $4 a gallon. That's a good sign. Let's see. It's $4.29. A week ago it was $4.49, so it's down 20 cents in a week. A month ago it was $4.43. So we're on the right track here. So that that makes a difference in your life, doesn't it, Anthony?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oil at $91 a barrel, so it's kind of in that 88 to 92 range right now, which should mean more gas price relief come tomorrow. It's all good news. We got lots of good news here on Daybreak. I'll be right back. Well, we're talking about food and health and all of that this morning. When I was younger, I loved Pizza Hut. I did. I thought that was a cool place to go. Their plastic red cups, their salad bar, all that, and the pizza, of course. But now you know what you know, right? You get older and you go, wait a second. I should not be eating that stuff, right? That's right. You should not be eating that stuff. Well, Pizza Hut now is being sold, it looks like, to private equity. Private equity is buying everything. And your next pizza could come from private equity. How do you feel about that? It's one thing when private equity buys Pizza Hut. I don't really care. But when they go in and buy a collection of, say, HVAC companies, 20 or 25 in a region, say North Atlanta, and basically create a regional monopoly, that's a problem. There is no choice left. The mom and pop shops, and look, I can't blame the mom and pop shops. They get gobbled up. And they get a pile of money. But then private equity has the same price at all the former mom and pop shops where they keep the images, keep the name, keep you believing that it's still owned locally when really it's not, because they'll still say locally owned and operated when, in fact, that's an illusion. Anyhow, Pizza Hut looks like it's Yum Brands, by the way, being sold. Concussions, while we're talking about health, a bad thing to have happen. And the NeuroGuard Plus can stop concussions before they do happen. Dr. Michael Hutchinson, who's become a friend, has patented a breakthrough mouth guard for athletes. A mouth guard. It's almost football season. It's a game changer. Athletes using NeuroGuard Plus suffer concussions just 0.26% of the time, and that's almost unheard of. And it gets better. The mouth guard can also boost your strength and speed by up to 16%. You can lift more weight. You can jump higher, run faster. Don't take my word for it. Michigan State University, Wayne State University, they tested it, certified the results. Protect your brain and upgrade your performance. Just go to NeuroGuardPlus.com. You'll save 10% with the promo code Gruber, and you'll keep your head in the game. Pretty good deal. NeuroGuardPlus.com. Your kids, your grandkids, you, if you're out there playing pickleball, whatever it might be, you need the NeuroGuard Plus. NeuroGuardPlus.com. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back to it. A lot of conversations over the last month during the ceasefire. The president saying that we are 95% of the way to a peace deal. Still hasn't happened. Apparently, there was a blow-up between the president and Bibi Netanyahu. The president asking the prime minister of Israel, what the F are you doing? So still no deal in sight. And look, this is Iran's This is their strategy. Delay, drag your feet, say yes, but never get to the actual deal. We'll see where that all goes. Joining me, Alarisa Jafferzada, the Deputy Director of the U.S. Office of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, the author of The Iran Threat, and a TEDx speaker. Alarisa, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Steve. Always a pleasure.
All right, so give us your update. Where are we with this ongoing conflict? It's been fairly quiet for a month now. A few targeted attacks from the United States on some specific points in Iran, but nothing like we were seeing previously. Where do you think we are?
Well, you know, the strategy of the mullahs ruling Iran has always been and continues to be to drag the issue, do not deliver what you're supposed to deliver, and play games and portray your weakness as actually your strength. The regime is trying to play with the Strait of Hormuz, but keep in mind, a good portion of the Iranian economy relies on exporting oil, and they're depriving themselves of the revenue that is absolutely necessary for running the operations, both the operations of the Iran regime, but also the impact it has on the Iranian economy. And the more difficult the issues get economically, the more negative impact it would have on the society. The latest round of uprising in January was as a result of the deteriorating Iranian currency. Previously, back in 2018, the protests started when the price of chicken and egg rose. In 2019, it was because of tripling the price of gasoline. So it's not that, you know, the regime is at a comfortable seat. To the contrary, they're in deep trouble. And also, you know, they have a population that is vehemently opposed to the Iranian regime, and they want to cover that. So we need to be able to see the weaknesses and the vulnerabilities of the Iran regime in the middle of the smoke screen that the Iran regime has created.
Yeah, the president has made two very clear red lines. One, no nuclear weapons and no pursuit of nuclear weapons. And number two, no control over the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, the United States government has told any country, do not pay some toll to Iran because it would be a violation of the deals that are already in place. And so that's pretty clear. But, you know, we keep being told the regime is in trouble. The regime is on its last legs and so on and so forth. But yet, nothing seems to change. It seems to take away a lot of optimism from people here in this country. Now, gas prices are down today, but all indications are that world reserves are down 1 billion barrels. So it's not just pressure on Iran, it's pressure on developed nations that need that energy. Not just Iranian energy, but any energy that flows through the Strait of Hormuz. We're hitting a critical logjam here, aren't we?
Well, you know, the dictatorships, they all seem to be invincible until they fall. Look at all the dictatorship from Assad in Syria that seem to be entirely in control, yet in 11 days, the whole thing collapsed. The previous dictatorship ruling Iran, the Shah, was, you know, boasting about all the support that he had from the United States, all the military might. He had the secret police savak that was putting intellectuals in jail. He declared, he was so arrogant that he declared single party rule just 3 years before he fell, feeling that he's totally in control. And even just 13 months before the fall of the Shah, the US President Jimmy Carter went to Tehran, had that famous toast with the Shah calling Iran an island of stability, yet, you know, the whole thing went down. So that's, I think, what you need to look at is not the projected strength of the regime, but also see deep inside what's really percolating. Most important factor is the role of the people. The vast majority of the Iranian people are opposed to this regime. In January of this year, there were protests in all 31 provinces of Iran. And interestingly, Stephen, you know, the 5 days before the start of the war, on February 23rd, the main Iranian opposition, the MEK, which is the same movement that exposed all the major nuclear sites and is behind the protests, they launched an assault on the headquarters of then Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, using 250 of their fighters, showing that the discontent is deep, that there is an organized opposition, there is a desire to fight the Revolutionary Guards. And ever since, despite all of these things happening, every week there are actions by these resistance units all over the country. They just had 20 acts of resistance in just a week, last week, all over the country. So it's what is really important is to understand that the organized force is there, is active, is not counting on for boots on the ground or appropriation of money or arms. They're relying on their own population. And all the United States need to do is to understand the weakness of the regime. Don't give in to the threats of the mullahs.
One thing that is coming up, and that is, we had heard this a while back, that the amount of storage capacity for Iran would be tested quickly. Now, we've gone well past what we thought was a couple of weeks, obviously, but there are more rumors now that the storage capacity for oil could be reaching its maximum. They slowed down the pumping and so forth, but you can only go so far. If the oil is not being exported, that could be a pressure point for the regime as well, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The regime relies heavily on exporting oil. And for the oil wells to operate, you have to constantly be able to pump out and then eventually have the ability to export it. If the regime closes the Strait of Hormuz, they are the first party that are going to be vulnerable. But let me just add to all of those things. The people of Iran, they see what the problem is. They see the Iran regime as the main problem, but also they see the Iranian people as the solution for it. We just had last month a major rally of thousands of Iranian Americans have come from all over the U.S. right here in Washington in support of Mrs. Rajavi. There's another big one coming in 3 weeks in Paris, Saturday, June 20th.
Right.
As many as 100,000 are expected there to show the world that no matter what the regime does, the organized resistance is alive, is very hopeful, is organizing, is relying on its own population, is relying on its organized force, its leadership. Mrs. Mariam Rajavi was introduced a 10-point platform for the future of Iran, but also a provisional government. That's where the focus should be.
Well, Alarissa, we're going to leave it right there. I appreciate the update. You have your finger on the pulse of what's happening there. We appreciate it. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, Steve.
Thank you, sir. There's the latest from Iran. We'll take a break and be right back. Well, another big corporation saying, you know what, it's time to move our headquarters. You're seeing this all the time now. Places like Miami and Houston, Memphis. Popular for companies that are trying to get away from these high-tax, high-control blue states. Will Hild is the executive director of Consumers Research. He joins me now. Will, nice to have you back on the program this morning.
Great to be with you again.
ExxonMobil, they said, time to go. And it seems odd to me they're not already in Texas, but they weren't. They're on their way now. Tell us about this.
Yeah, it was sort of an accident of history that Exxon was incorporated in New Jersey. I think it relates back to the trust busting of the earlier part of the 20th century. However, this is, don't get me wrong, this is a seismic move to have a corporation as large as Exxon move from a northern or northeastern state into the state of Texas, because it's part of an ongoing battle between the states right now, sort of challenging Delaware and the Northeast, lock that they had on being the place of incorporation. And increasingly, Texas is challenging that, both with redoing their laws, so they're a much more favorable state to be incorporated in than states like New Jersey. And also, you've got financial infrastructure that's being built. Texas announced they are starting their own Texas Stock Exchange, and so even NASDAQ is going to have a Texas branch down there. A lot of companies are moving financial assets to Dallas and that Fort Worth area. So this is a big move, and I think Exxon may be the largest that we've seen move to Texas here in the last few years.
It seems to me that it's just another example of big corporations, saying, look, we cannot be in these high tax states that have all of this pressure and all this regulation and all of this activism, because that's part of it too, isn't it? It's all these activists that go out and protest ExxonMobil. You're killing the planet. Really. It seems to me that the real thing that's being killed in those blue states is the economy, because when these big corporations leave, they have to make it up on somebody's back, and the people that end up paying the bill are those that can least afford it. Or am I wrong?
No, you're 100% correct, and I actually think that the activism is the main motivation here. Increasingly, states, again, like Delaware, New Jersey, New York, California, see their role as the state of incorporation is meddling and getting into the actual business of running the corporation to push a far-left progressive agenda, completely detached from any relation to consumer protection or returns for shareholders. And I think that was part of the big motivation here. We're seeing that in Delaware, that judge that overturned Elon Musk's pay package twice after it had been approved by shareholders twice. That did immeasurable damage to the state. That's not a tax, so to speak, but it is an indication that corporations can't rely on an even hand in these jurisdictions. And that's really all they had going for them. Delaware is not obviously a state that's that large, or that it would make a lot of sense to put a headquarters in. States like Texas make a lot more sense in that regard. But now you can't even rely on them to have a good, fair court system. And that's the same thing in New Jersey. So you're 100% right. It's this meddling progressive left activism. States like California, for example, passed rules that require certain basically race and sex-based quotas on the boards of directors for the corporations incorporated there. So you're just seeing a mass movement away from those types of states.
It's government overreach, telling people, this is who has to be on your board. This is how you have to run your business. These are the regulations we're putting in. California, the biggest offender of all. We've been subjected to California emissions rules and other things they've done there because for these companies, auto companies, for example, to compete, they couldn't create different cars for California and Connecticut, right? You had to have something that was universal across the board. So we all paid the price. But I see a pushback on that now, and it's serious. The benefit to states like Tennessee or Texas or Florida, it's immeasurable at this point, because if people continue to flow in from New York, Illinois, California, right? This is a huge population shift. In addition to the big money people, a lot of other folks are going too. South Carolina, the fastest growing state in America right now. I mean, figure it out, right?
Yeah, and there's an interesting wrinkle to this. There's a industry called proxy advisors, which is not something that most people interact with day to day. There's really only two firms, and they help advise fund managers on how to vote for shareholder proposals and compensation packages, that kind of thing. And much like many institutions over the last 10 to 15 years, they've been captured by a woke left managerialism. What's interesting is Texas passed a law to protect corporations incorporated there last year from meddling by these proxy advisors. And the shareholders voted about 70% for Exxon to move from New Jersey to Texas. But guess some of the largest institutions that advised against that vote was the proxy advisors, who had an obvious conflict of interest in corporations not going to a state where their advice is going to receive more scrutiny around that corporation. So you're seeing a lot of institutions, woke left institutions, who felt that they were impregnable, that they could get away with whatever they wanted. As states like Texas and, like you said, South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee have changed rules around that to protect people there from the woke left, protect them from California's regulatory overreach. You're seeing a mass exodus, and they don't know what to do. You know, you see Governor Hochul in New York is now begging people, millionaires and billionaires, to stay there. 2-3 years ago, she was saying, if you're a Republican, you don't belong here. Get out of our state. So I think they didn't believe that people would call their bluff, but they are. And once you start momentum in that direction, it's very hard to stop that.
Yeah, it is. The outflow, I mean, look, I'm in Michigan. The outflow, net negative migration happening here because we have too much tax, too much regulation, too much control in the state capital. We're seeing that all over the country. Will, thank you for being here. I think that this is going to continue, this phenomenon, because it just seems they're not getting the memo. They just don't get it, it seems. But I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Always. And that push to places, look, if you live in South Carolina, your property's worth more than it was yesterday. Same in Tennessee, same in Texas, same in Florida. Move over. You might have some new neighbors real soon. All right. Appreciate you being here. Remember, you can always send me an email, stevegruber.com. We read them all and respond to as many as we can. Sometimes we get a day or two behind, but we do our very best. And I appreciate it. stevegruber.com. Tell me what's happening where you live. What's important? What should we be talking about? I'll be right back. Here's something else that is pushing the envelope in places like we've been talking about in these states. You've seen Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, pushing for an end to property tax. Well, the same thing now is happening in Tennessee. And look, if you've paid your mortgage for 30 years and the mortgage is paid off, that should be the end of it. The government shouldn't be able to come along and take your property because you didn't make a property tax payment. Maybe you got older. Maybe you had a medical issue. Who knows what happened? Maybe you lost a job, but your house is paid for. Your house should be your house. Tennessee joining the campaign to ban property tax in the state. Governor Bill Lee will lead a campaign supporting a constitutional amendment that will ban statewide property taxes. And voters will decide on the November 3rd ballot whether they want to permanently bar state lawmakers from enacting a statewide property tax. The group, Yes On 2, comprised of the Tennessee Farm Bureau, Tennessee Realtors, Tennessee Chamber of Commerce, the National Federation of Independent Business, Americans for Prosperity, and the Beacon Center of Tennessee, all supporting this amendment. You want to see another big inflow of people to Tennessee? This is it. They're going to come on in. And why wouldn't they? No income tax? No property tax, sales tax? Sure, there'll be taxes somewhere. They'll find a way to make it work, but you have this massive influx of people. And you know what those people are? Employees, builders, people that can be in the workforce because they're producers. And you'd rather produce in a state that doesn't tax everything you do, including your property. So as the blue states sit there all slack-jawed and glassy-eyed, the red states are like, hey, this is working. Look what Florida's doing. Let's do that. Let's ratchet it up. Won't be long till South Carolina says, you know what, we shouldn't have property tax either. I don't know if they do or don't. I'm going to guess they do. Anyhow, you know where's property tax? I've got property tax. Income tax, yeah. Only state to raise it in the last 2 years. I live there, Michigan. Yeah. And there's a net negative immigration. Net negative outflow because they're living in Tennessee and Texas. Anyhow, nice to see you this morning on Daybreak. We'll have another big hour straight ahead, and Ivy will be joining me. You don't want to miss that.
what you would
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now on Real America's Voice.
And welcome back to it as we dive right in and protect you, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Here are three big things this hour. Number one, the elite left-wing enclave of Nantucket has gone full-blown wake, canceling 4th of July traditions in favor of derogatory comments about whiteness in America. These people are a national embarrassment. Number two, a major move by President Trump in an executive order to have the United States align our childhood vaccination schedule with other developed nations. Cue the panic on the left and, of course, Big Pharma. And number three, let's stay with the vaccines and health this morning, shall we? Because every day we get more information that makes it crystal clear. We have been manipulated, possibly for decades in public health, but never more so than during the COVID pandemic. Ivy jumping in now. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
And I want to share this because you and I, we talk health all the time, whether it's food or the clothing we wear and microplastics, all of it. Mm-hmm. But when I saw this yesterday from RFK Jr., I'm like, wow, it just continues to come out. How we were yanked around during COVID. I want you to hear this. Go ahead, Anthony.
And during COVID, we saw something that had a long runway, which was that the government was not always telling the truth to the American public. That science was being manipulated, that the messages that people were openly, regulatory officials at the highest level were openly telling what they called noble lies in order to get the public to do something that they genuinely thought that they ought to be doing. They would misstate the data, and we're not doing that anymore. We're telling the public now, and if you've watched what we're doing over the past 15 months, we tell them what we know and what we don't know. We're changing our websites so that we acknowledge that there are gaps in the information, and we're not going to fill them by lying to people. We're going to fill them by doing the research that should have been done.
So we're actually going to do research.
And we're actually going to tell the truth. I'm just so shocked that the government lied to the American people. That's so strange.
I can't believe it.
Oh, weird.
Say it isn't so. But it is, I guess, refreshing to me that they are coming out.
Yeah.
And he's pulling back and he's opening drawers that haven't been open or weren't supposed to be open and saying, well, what do we have in here? And what's the truth? And what studies did we actually do? And the truth of the matter is, we didn't do doodly squad before they started sticking needles in people's arms during COVID. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I think, too, that a lot of people seem to be frustrated with him. But the realization is he has a full-time job fixing a very broken system.
Yeah.
And, you don't see what's happening in the background, and you're getting little bits and pieces of things that are coming out in terms of the change in the vaccine schedule, which is happening on Friday. The president signed an executive order directing the CDC and its advisory committee on immunization practices to review the Department of Health and Human Services assessment of childhood vaccines, because they want are we doing the right thing? I believe right now it's 17 vaccines that are.
It was 77 at one point. They brought it down to 17. But what the president said was, let's align with other countries like the UK and France and Germany. They don't give 77 vaccines. Let's align.
And that is over like when you're a newborn through adolescence, correct?
Oh, my gosh.
It does seem like an extraordinary amount.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm really surprised, too, that there are a lot of doctors that are still pushing COVID vaccinations on young people when they're just simply not at risk.
And never were.
Yeah. So that is very surprising to me. I do also have another bite talking about the Secretary, RFK Jr. I want you to hear this bite and tell me what you have to say about it. Go ahead.
What you would do if you wanted to find the answer, which is to compare outcomes in a fully vaccinated group to health outcomes in an unvaccinated group. And CDC did that study in 1999. They brought in a team of scientists under a Belgian researcher named Thomas Verstraeten, and they looked at the data. They looked at children who had received the hepatitis vaccine within the first 30 days of life, and compared those children to children who had received the vaccine later or not at all. And they found an 135% elevated risk of autism among the vaccinated children. And it shocked them. They kept the study secret, and then they manipulated it through 5 different iterations to try to bury the link. And, we know how they did it. They got rid of all the older children, essentially, and just had younger children who were too young to be diagnosed. And they stratified the data, and they did a lot of other tricks. And all of those studies were the subject of that kind of trickery.
Right.
With
that
our kids.
Right there makes me very angry. How about you?
It's outrageous. Look, it's trickery. And again, you talk about the tonnage of vaccines. And we're talking about vaccines where you're getting multiple vaccines within the first few hours of being born. I mean, they're sticking needles, bam, 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 bam. Look, I don't know, nobody does for sure, what triggers autism. But we're on the road. We talked about this yesterday. If we stay on this path, this trajectory, half of the kids in America will be diagnosed as autistic in about 10 years. Half.
Wow.
That's the road we're on. So there have to be environmental issues. Is it the vaccines? A lot of people say no, but could it be tied to one of several factors that come in because you get bombarded? We were talking about microplastics.
Yeah.
You're talking about the food you eat. You're talking about highly processed, whatever. You talk about the vaccines. You put all of these, push them all into one big group, and then what do you have?
That's true.
And it's concerning, and it's angry. It's angering to me. Look, you're hiding the information. You're pushing it in a drawer. You don't want to admit, oh, hey, something happened in this study. We don't like the outcome, so we just won't tell anybody. Or worse, we'll lie about it.
And then continue to administer it, knowing that it can have harmful side effects. And it's no different than the COVID vaccination. What all of this should have been, hey, first of all, should never have mandated it.
Correct.
Number two, if you do want it, here are the things, like your long laundry list of possible side effects that you hear all the time when you hear pharmaceutical commercials. This is what should be transparent and allowing people to make decisions for themselves. Now, if they were a high-risk individual, I know we had a gentleman on talking about this who was a former HHS, wasn't he?
Yep.
On our podcast, and he was saying there's one form of a COVID vaccination that he would recommend for those at risk, but it's not the mRNA vaccination.
CDC, actually, Robert Redfield.
That's who it was. Thank you
Yeah.
for that reminder.
CDC. And he is the one guy who was in charge of the CDC from 2018 through 2021 who said, look, we got it all wrong.
That's right.
He can admit it.
Right.
Where's everybody else?
Yeah. Do you remember the vaccination that he recommended?
It was a protein vaccine.
A protein vaccine.
Yeah, and I don't remember the name of it, but it was. But you can find it on the Forgotten America podcast,
That's
by
right.
the way. It's available. Dr. Robert Redfield, former director of the CDC, one of the great podcasts on Forgotten America. All you have to do is go to Steve Gruber on YouTube, become a subscriber for free.
Yes.
Ivy and I talked to some fascinating people.
Well, we learned about ticks yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's going out Monday.
Yes.
And that's with Dr. Robert Malone. What a conversation that was.
You'll want to tune in for that one.
Absolutely. I think we're going to drop it Monday. We're talking about changing the lineup because it was so good and so compelling. Anyhow, it's right there on your screen. QR code. Become a subscriber for free. Ivy and I, all sorts of fascinating conversations. Ivy, love you.
I love you.
We'll take a break and be right back. Let's talk about the midterms for a moment, shall we? There are people out there who have some information who say they believe the left is going to do what they've always done, try to rig the elections, try to steal the elections. Mass mail-in ballots still a problem in too many places. There's no question about that, and other concerns too. Eric Eggers, Vice President of Research at the Government Accountability Institute and the co-host of The Drill Down with Peter Schweitzer, who's also on this program regularly, and the author of Fraud, How the Left Plans to Steal the Next Election. Eric, thank you for being here.
Hey, Steve, it's election season. It's my favorite time of year.
Yeah, isn't it, though? Lots of money being spent. But Tina Peters, who has been released from prison on a clemency grant, she's getting a lot of negative pushback from the folks in Colorado because she continues to say, look, they're playing games here, and they're going to play games. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, good for Tina Peters, who, like other patriots who I think were wrongly sent to prison for articulating a desire to see American elections be fair and free, for not backing down, not cowering. And I actually think we live in a world today, Steve, in the year 2026, where you can be more honest about what's wrong with elections. On our podcast that I do with Peter Schweitzer, which people can find at thedrilldown.com, just this week we talked about in Washington State, where they have 100% mail-in balloting. Someone came forward because they found boxes of ballots by dumpsters and they couldn't find the appropriate elections official to turn them into. You also had election registration cards with lots of Chinese names on them. And that's just one example in one state that's got a lot of different problems, And I think what's telling is the way these blue states is, instead of saying, okay, maybe we should do stuff to just make sure, just because we should all be invested in making American elections as secure as possible, they're going the other way. California, I think earlier last week, signed a bill prohibiting the seizure of ballots because they had a candidate, Chad Bianco, as sheriff, said he heard about a discrepancy of 45,000 ballots. So they said, okay, let's look at it. It's after the fact. We should be able to do an inspection and investigation to see, is there any truth to this? But instead of kind of participating in investigations to see, is there merit to the claim, they try to stop them before they happen. So when they try to cover up the investigation, that's where you think there's a real problem.
Yeah, and look, every time there's a move made to bring accountability and transparency to elections, one side flips out. One side says, yes, let's do it. Let's do whatever it takes to make it right and fair and accurate, to make sure the votes are counted properly. Improper votes are thrown out or whatever. It seems to be quite a pattern, Eric, and it's not too hard to find, is it?
Well, remember, after 2020, and we can all, talk about the lots of red flags and warning signs and incredibly aberrant behavior that existed in the 2020 election. So some states decided, okay, we're not going to let that happen again, just because a lot of people aren't real sure that was a super fair election. So states like Georgia took what I thought was a very common sense approach. They said, all right, we're going to go back. We're going to recreate what's like political sterility, right? We're not going to allow people to have mailers or political activists within a certain amount of feet from the polling places. And the left lost their ever-loving mind. Remember, they made Major League Baseball move its dang All-Star game from Atlanta just because Georgia passed common sense election reform in the wake of the 2020 election. They tried to get dang Delta to leave, right? So they put so much pressure on anybody who's trying to do a common sense thing. So it's nice to see the pendulum swing back the other way. The fact that Tina Peters was released from prison, and I think even Colorado's governor said, listen, her sentence was just way too far. So even Democrats are recognizing that the fever dream of reaction of anybody mentioning election integrity has gone too far, and it's time to have some just common sense conversations about election integrity in this country.
Yeah. The governor gave her clemency, but the Secretary of State and the Attorney General there in Colorado are still chomping at the bit to put Tina Peters in jail forever if they could, because they say it's an affront to democracy that there was a clemency awarded to her. They just will not quit, and they don't care what the governor did. Polis there, right?
Yeah, well, that tells me that they still have political aspirations in Colorado, right? The governor is termed out, so you're probably not winning statewide election by being kind to someone who's raising questions about the election. And so I think that's as political a move of anything else. But look, to me, Tina Peters just asked questions. I participate in this group called the Election Integrity Network. And so you'd be shocked to hear how many different people all across this country, in spite of the profound pressure people like Tina Peters and others face for daring to ask questions, daring to like raise your hand and say, look, what I see is happening here is not correct. There's a movement that's happening. And I do think, like, look, California is casting ballots today, right? When do you think we're going to know who won the gubernatorial primary? You think it's going to be tonight, Steve?
No.
Right.
John, but speaking of all this, John Thune needs to get off his ass. Let me just be that blunt. We need the Save America Act, and him sitting there fiddling around while Rome burns is unacceptable to me and millions of others. It's not too much to ask for voter ID, to get rid of mail-in ballots, to make sure that we're doing things right. Look, no other civilized country in the world allows mail-in ballots like we do. Nobody. There's a reason for that, because it's ripe for fraud. And that is low-hanging fruit, Eric. Low-hanging fruit.
So listen, in Washington State, where they found these boxes of ballots, you could literally conduct a biblical flood in the amount of time people get between when they mail out a ballot and when you're allowed to turn it in. You get 12 days before, 21 days after.
21 days.
Whether the federal officials can pass the Save America Act, the good news, Steve, is in California, you have a ballot initiative that will be in November where they're trying to require voter ID in California. Obviously, Gavin Newsom's against that. In Washington State, they're trying to require proof of citizenship when you register to vote. What a novel concept. So they're trying to gather signatures for there. I'm telling you, there is a movement up front. I don't know what's John Thune's problem, but I think the resounding defeat John Cornyn just suffered in Texas should be a warning sign to every politician who lacks the courage to do what America wants, which is to make elections more secure. So, yeah, and
I think you nailed it, Eric.
Statutory moves.
I think John Thune had a courage bypass operation that was successful. That's what I think. Eric, I got to leave it there, my friend. Greatly appreciate seeing you. As always, we need to get it done, my friend. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Courage bypass operation. It was successful. More after this. Well, here's an update for you on a story that has intrigued many of us. These 11 lab workers, these workers linked to nuclear technology in America that have disappeared. Well, one of them has been found. The body of a missing nuclear lab worker from New Mexico has been found. 54-year-old Melissa Cassius. From Los Alamos National Laboratory. Her disappearance became part of a wider swirl of speculation over all these scientists have disappeared. She vanished or died under unclear circumstances. The New Mexico State Police Investigations Bureau informed Thursday of last week that a hiker found Cassius in the McGaffrey Ridge area of the Carson National Forest with a handgun alongside her remains, according to a Facebook post from the New Mexico Police Investigations Bureau. So, it's set to look like a suicide, but, man, all these workers disappearing, these high-tech folks, this just intrigues me more, not less. What are your thoughts? Send me an email, stevegruber.com. What's going on with all these scientists just vanishing or dying under mysterious circumstances? Strange, isn't it? If you're tired of thin, lifeless hair, if you cringe every time you see another clump in the shower drain, then your hair probably needs more protein. Just like our muscles lose protein as we age and atrophy, our hair loses protein as well, leaving to thin, dry, and brittle strands. That's why Hydrolift Volumizing Shampoo by Purance can help. Hydrolift contains wheat protein that strengthens your hair follicles from deep within. This transforms thin and lifeless hair into fuller, more resilient locks. It also contains betaine from sugar beets, which draws water into your strands, making your hair feel silky soft. Right now, you can try Hydrolift Volumizing Shampoo risk-free and get a 35% discount with Daybreak. Head over to Purance.com to shop and save. And by the way, Purance has many other fantastic products if you're looking to rejuvenate your skin, hair, or nail appearance. USDA certified organic, so they're great for your body and environment. Again, you can save 35% on your entire order with the discount code DAYBREAK. Go to Purance.com today and save. I'll be right back. Well, several states, half a dozen, in fact, holding primaries today. The biggest of all that everybody's watching, California, but you also have Iowa, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, and South Dakota all turning out for primaries today. Of course, in California, we're watching to see if Steve Hilton makes the cut. in that jungle primary there. And the biggest group of people that may impact what happens in California and New Mexico and some other states are Hispanic voters, without question. Hispanic voters are the largest minority voting bloc in America and getting larger. They also swung toward Donald Trump in big numbers in 2024, biggest I've ever seen. My next guest, Mayra Flores, former member of Congress that represented Texas 34 in the United States House from 2022 through 2023. A Republican, she was the first female Mexican-born member of the House, and she joins me now to discuss the Hispanic vote and everything going on. Mayra, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you here. Obviously, California has been on the minds of a lot of people, but look, the Hispanic vote is an important vote, even in states you don't think about. North Carolina has 500,000 Hispanic voters, for example. Ohio has 400,000. So they can be the deciding factor in these elections. And to me, the Hispanic voter has always been conservative. They just didn't realize it. They believe in faith, family, country, and they're suddenly realizing, many that, maybe I'm not a Democrat. What do you say to that?
You're right. You know, my dad, for example, raised us Republican and he didn't even know it. I remember telling him back in 2010 that I was going to be voting Republican. And he's like, what do you mean you're voting Republican? I'm like, Dad, the values that you instilled in me and my grandmother instilled in me, they're the values that align with the Republican Party. So you're right. By nature, we are very conservative. My dad now is a hardcore Republican, but that's because I spread all this information in my family, in the community. I started making them aware how our values align more with the Republican Party. That's why I joined, President Trump in 2024 in Vegas. We did a Hispanic roundtable, and I told him we're going to give you the biggest Hispanic support. I knew the importance of the Hispanic community and the vote and the impact, and we made sure we gave President Trump back the White House back in 2024. And now we got to make sure that these Hispanics come out and vote for the Republican candidates, because President Trump is not going to be in the ballot in this midterms. So now candidates and members of Congress have to do what President Trump did to get Hispanics to vote and support them down the ballot, because that's the point. They have to vote Republican, but also for local and state elections as well.
Sure. Now, one of the big issues coming into the 24 election and continues today, of course, is border security. And people don't seem to understand. I visited Texas a number of times and talked to different voters, especially Hispanic voters. They believe in border security more than other folks as a group that I talk to. And people say, well, that doesn't make sense. Right. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
It makes perfect sense, because we understand what's going on in Mexico. We understand that illegal immigration is paying the cartel, the same cartel that has our families terrorists in Mexico. Anyone who crosses illegally into this country, you have to pay the cartel. Women and children are getting raped every single time that they go through illegal immigration. That's why we have the legal process. I was blessed that my father brought us here to the United States when I was only 6 years old. I want that experience for every child. So if they actually cared about women and children, they would be encouraging legal immigration and not illegal immigration. It makes total sense, and that's why we supported President Trump, and now we have a border that is secure. But under the Biden administration, they were not implementing the immigration laws and not allowing our Border Patrol to do their job. And now under President Trump, that has all changed.
Yeah, I want to focus on another part of the illegal immigration problem, and that is the human trafficking for sex workers, for slave labor, really. And a lot of women and girls are swept up in this. You know this as well as anyone, Mayra, because you've seen what the damage is. And that's something else, where the cartels profit on the backs of girls and women. And that's maybe the most egregious and heartbreaking and wrenching part of this story. And look, it's still happening today. Maybe not the way it was during Joe Biden's administration, but it's still happening. And it's a critical problem,
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Mexico is the number one provider for child trafficking, and the United States is the top consumer, and that's why they're bringing in those children and those women into the United States. And those involved in child trafficking in the United States should get life in prison, no second opportunities. We have to put in place very strict laws, and for them to know that if they're involved in child trafficking and any abuse on a child, regardless of their status, that they're going to go to prison for the rest of their life. We got to put an end to child trafficking, human trafficking in our country. And it starts by ending illegal immigration once and for all.
Yeah, the concern for me is that we saw great gains for the Republicans and Donald Trump in 2024, but you can't take that for granted. Look, jobs matter.
Absolutely.
Family matters. The border, like we just discussed, matters. You have to focus on the things that strengthen the family because I believe, like I said just moments ago, the conservatives in the Hispanic community are growing. Maybe they've always been conservatives. You pointed out what you learned from your father and your grandmother. Maybe those things have always been there. So these core issues are there. And Republicans, I warn you, Republicans, do not lose sight of what is important to people in this community. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. They have to continue investing and not take this vote for granted. Just because they voted for President Trump in 2024 doesn't mean that they're going to come out and vote Republican in November. They will, but we have to invest in the Hispanic community, invest in the economy. That at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're Hispanic, Latino, white, African. It doesn't matter. We're all Americans. We all want what's best for this country. And I think it's important that we get our message across the state of Texas and the United States, both in English and Spanish. And that's what I'm focused on this midterms, is to get the conservative message all across Texas in both English and Spanish. And that's where my super PAC, the American Dream, is going to be focused on this midterms.
Give me your prediction, Myra, for Texas. Obviously, new congressional districts there as a result of redistricting. And it looks like the Republicans could pick up 5 seats. Do you believe that's going to happen?
I don't believe that's going to happen, but I do believe that we're going to gain seats throughout the United States, and I do believe that we are going to keep the majority in the United States, but it's going to take hard work and dedication. I'd rather run this midterms as if we're losing. I do not want anyone to be confident, too overconfident for November. It's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication from everyone. Social media platforms are great, but they're not going to win this election. It's going to take proud Americans to come together, help candidates, help members of Congress, go door knocking and get the message, across, but on the ground. We need to focus on the districts, and we need more members of Congress to spend more time in their districts for this midterms.
Need to do the hard work, that's for sure. Don't sit on your hands. Don't take it for granted. Myra Flores, a pleasure having you on. Nice to see you. Look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. What do you think? How are Republicans going to do in the midterms? Send me an email, stevegruber.com. Always looking for your insights, no matter where you may live. We'll take a break. This is Daybreak.
Somewhere around 400.
All right, welcome back to it. I want to continue the conversation about the midterms as we sit here on a big primary day. You remember the Louisiana versus Calais case coming out of the Supreme Court, striking down congressional districts that were created solely based on race. They said you can't do that. And so Tennessee was one of the states that said we can redistrict, and they did. And then they all went crazy on the left. Well, this is racist, except they failed to point out the guy representing Memphis was a white dude who'd been there for 20 years. But it's racist to try to redraw districts. Interesting, considering my next guest, Charlotte Bergman, is from Memphis. She grew up in a Christian home of 10 kids under the guidance of her parents. Her father was a Baptist minister who instilled in his kids the true blessings of Scripture. And now she's running for election to the U.S. House to represent Tennessee 9. And she just happens to be a black woman. Charlotte Bergman is with me. And so I guess, Charlotte, this whole thing about it being racist to redraw the districts in Tennessee is only racist if you can't get a Democrat elected. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to join you. And I agree with you 100%. This community.
This is crazy. This is they're calling it racist. Steve Cohen, a white guy, a Jewish white guy, has been there for 20 years. How is this racist by any stretch?
Listen, Steve Cohen has been here for 20 years. He has learned to manipulate the system. But this is a new day in Tennessee. The Supreme Court did a wonderful job by dividing the district up into 3 different congressional districts. And I'm going across the state now meeting people who, and I actually have 14 congressional districts. And these people are wonderful people. And in the 9th congressional district, which has been divided up, 18% of African Americans have just said, I give up. I am not going to go out to vote. Now they have a reason to come out to vote. The people in the farm areas and the other parts of Tennessee, they are excited. They know that farming fuels our country, feeds our state, and keeps us protected. And I'm excited about the opportunity to represent them. I may be black, but I have merit. I actually voted in the 2016-2020 election for President Trump to be our GOP nominee. I have received awards from, say, even the George W. Bush's campaign. I've been a Republican for 34 years. I am not a person that has just recently come into the fold, because I share those values, as you'd indicated, the values of biblical principle. I have been homeless. My grandson was murdered on the streets of Memphis. These are things I don't want to see happen to the people in this community. People are concerned about feeding their children, are concerned about high gas costs, are concerned about government being so overbearing that it tells people how to live. We've got people who are tired of that, and this is a new day in Tennessee. And I believe that the people will come out and vote for me because I represent a lot of the issues that they're concerned about.
Yeah, I don't think the Democrats are concerned about racism as they contend every day. I think what concerns them are people like you. People that said, wait a second, I'm not a Democrat. People like Wesley Hunt, who represents Texas's 38th congressional district, who is a majority white district. He's a black man that I would take as my congressman every day, right? I mean, what concerns them is the Congressional Black Caucus is a majority Republican. That's what frightens Democrats, don't you think?
You know, it's interesting. I agree with you 100%. But they do not have policies to make the lives better for the people in the community. All they want to do is shout racism. All they want to do is accuse people of being Jim Crow and KKK, which were the original Democrats. This has got to change. I am the reconciliation candidate. I am the candidate that people look at and see me not as a black female, but as somebody who can fight, who knows Washington, D.C., and can find the restrooms on the first day, who have networked with people and established relationships. This is what we need in terms of a Republican who goes to Washington, D.C. I actually will have a seat at the table such that I can influence decisions that are being made to affect my community.
So when is the Tennessee primary coming up?
The Tennessee primary will occur on August the 6th. And I'd like to send a shout out to Tina Peterson because she was a brave female. She she stood up to the fraud and the election non-integrity. But I have someone who is running against me who was the chairman of the Shelby County Election Commission, and he touts himself as a Trump supporter, yet he certified that fraudulent election, and he was not anyone that helped President Trump. I filed a lawsuit in the next election per se, in order to fight to make sure that the elections were honest and that the correct number of voters that went to vote were also the voters that were on the voter rolls. But when I filed my lawsuit, I just wanted the data. I just wanted to see the CBR files and the PBO files just to be able to make that connection. And the election commission said, no, you cannot do that. Well, the people cannot have honest candidates and representatives if they feel like their votes do not count. So,
Yeah, you got to have
Tina,
election
I
integrity.
got it.
Yeah, you've got to have
Exactly.
it. You've got to get rid of these mail-in ballots. You've got to have voter ID. You've got to have the SAVE Act, Charlotte. I agree with you on that. And I really appreciate talking to you today. I look forward to following your race. I wish you well coming up on the 6th of August. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me to join you. God bless you.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you very much. And I believe what I said there. I believe Democrats are scared to death that the Congressional Black Caucus would be primarily Republicans because it would show all sorts of folks in this country, hey, you're not a Democrat. And that's true for all sorts of folks. Kind of a theme here today. The Republican Party is a big tent. Come on in. You're welcome. We'll take a break and be right back. All right, let's check in on sports now with our good friend Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There were two huge trades in the NFL yesterday. First, the Philadelphia Eagles sent disgruntled wide receiver A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots for a pair of future draft picks. But the really big one saw the Cleveland Browns send NFL Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett to the Los Angeles Rams for Pro Bowl defensive end Jared Verse and 3 future draft picks. In Major League Baseball, there were 9 games last night. American League winners included Minnesota, Kansas City, and Seattle. National League winners included Miami, Milwaukee, and Colorado. At the French Open in Paris, the last 2 Americans bowed out. On the women's side, Madison Keys fell in 3 sets in the 4th round. On the men's side, Francis Tiafoe lost in 5 sets in the 4th round. And it will be Texas versus Texas Tech for the national championship in college softball, as both teams won a pair of games yesterday in Oklahoma City. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. Greatly appreciated. Always keeping us up on sports and making sure that we're up to speed. Well, a new groundbreaking study shows there is a safe and inexpensive potential cancer treatment. It's a drug that many of us know about, ivermectin. The new study shows that individuals who took ivermectin, the parasite-fighting medication that gained fame during COVID, along with the drug mebendazole, saw remarkable results in the fight with cancer. It's promising, these results, and many Americans are wondering if they can obtain U.S.-made ivermectin and mebendazole. The answer is yes, at the Wellness Company. You see and hear their doctors all the time here, and you know their products are the gold standard for keeping you and your family safe and healthy. The Wellness Company making 100% American-made ivermectin and mebendazole available to my audience at incredibly affordable prices right now. Say no to Big Pharma's greed and no to Big Pharma's poisons, and say yes to a company that you can trust to bring you safe, affordable, and effective treatments. If you or someone you love is interested in trying ivermectin and mebendazole, go to twc.health/Gruber, twc.health/Gruber today and order twc.health/Gruber. The promo code Gruber will save you 10% or more today. All right, throughout the rest of the day, we will be following this day of primaries, most notably California. What's going to happen in that race for governor? Jungle primary. Who comes in first? Who comes in second? The top 2 will move on to the general election regardless of party. Pretty important stuff here today. We'll not miss any of it. I'll take a break and be right back.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now.
All right, let's kick off another brand new hour. Glad to have you on board for the conversation. Three big things you need to know this hour as we fight for you from the foxhole of freedom. Number one, RFK announces the largest autism fraud bust in history. Looking out for you and your money. Number two, Donald Trump continues to say the Iran talks are going at a rapid pace, but really, is there any progress? Doesn't look like it from where I'm standing. And number three, man, here on this primary day that includes Montana, California, New Mexico, and some other states, fraud, deception, bad candidates remain in the headlines, most notably Graham Platner in Maine. He took over the race, became the nominee. Well, it's not official yet, and you have to wonder if the Democrat Party is going to break glass in case of emergency. Because Graham Platner every single day has a new thing pop up that is disqualifying. Now it's sexting, and now he was yesterday still actively on an app called Kik, K-I-K. It's a hookup app. And the majority of the people on this hookup app are aged 13 to 24. 13. This guy is the gift that keeps on giving for the state of Maine. MS Now melting down over Graham Platner, as they should. Those far-left commentators, well, they're pulling the ripcord. Listen.
The problem is his judgment, which he clearly has been lacking in as an adult. It's one thing to have foolish, youthful indiscretions, but I'm sorry, you cannot get past. It is not a Nazi-style tattoo. It is the tattoo of concentration camp guards. It is the very worst tattoo you can get if you are getting anything Nazi, and that's a pretty high bar there. So this has been a slow-motion train wreck ever since that tattoo and knowledge of it hit the world, and it's only going to get worse. These texts, there are multiple women. Are all those women going to keep their mouths shut from now until Election Day? What do you think, Lauren?
Yeah, it just continues to get worse because there was the tattoo, the Nazi guard tattoo, the sexting scandal that began after he had gotten married here a couple of years ago. Now three, this Kik app, it just continues to get worse. And the Democrats are coming out in numbers against him now. The Democrats saying, man, have we screwed up? Listen.
I certainly appreciate his wife wanting to stand up for him, but I mean, come on, it's politics. What do you think is going to happen? Of course, everything is fair game. And of course, people's character and their behavior and their treatment of women matters. And is there a double standard in the parties? 100% there is, because of, I don't even have to begin to explain the double standards when it comes to the president of the United States. But Democrats have been trying to take the moral high ground and to run candidates that don't have these kinds of deep moral and personal problems. And by the way, it was a long shot to begin with.
Anyhow, stop, done with them. I don't care. You have to slime Donald Trump on the way by with Graham Platner with a Nazi guard tattoo plastered on his chest for 18 years, sexting, and now being a member of this Kik app. I mean, it just doesn't get any worse. And he's lost the view. How bad is it when you lose the view? Listen to this.
Controversies keep coming for Democratic Senate candidate Graham Platner. On the heels of apologizing for a tattoo associated with Nazis, an offensive post about a wounded U.S. soldier, now his wife, Amy Gertner, is responding to reports that she gave his campaign a heads up about her husband sending sexually explicit texts to several different women.
Horrible. There is no doubt that this guy, Platner, is flawed in many ways. This is different than the Eric Swalwell thing so far, because no women have come forward that I know of or that have been reported. We haven't seen that sex like we did with Swalwell, but it is disturbing.
Disturbing? Yeah, I'd say so. He's on an app that has children from 13 years and older. as the primary audience and users of that app. Yeah. Nice job, Democrats. They're taking the moral high ground. Okay. Good luck with that. Let me move on to another deeply flawed candidate, James Tallarico in Texas. I can't help it. Pastor Josh Howerton has a pretty popular platform on X. He laid it all out. Who is Tallarico really? This guy that claims to be a pastor. Listen to this.
This is not me being mean or exaggerating. He's an actual heretic.
Not once in the entire Bible does Jesus ask us to worship him. All he asks is that we follow him.
I got no words. It's like, hey man, that's true. Like maybe if you cut off the entire last book of the Bible, like the whole last book of the Bible is the Lamb is seated on the throne with more people than anybody can count, bowing down and worshiping him, throwing crowns before him, and then anybody who won't do that, he's throwing them into the lake of fire. This is not me being mean or exaggerating. He's an actual heretic, like a biblically defined false teacher and heretic. What this guy does that I've never seen a politician do before that makes me have a little bit more of an edge. Politicians since the beginning of time have been twisting scripture, using scripture to try to convince people to do what they want. This is the first guy I've ever seen who's really his whole platform is using the Bible to convince Christians to support godless things.
Yeah. An actual heretic, a living, breathing heretic. And you know, while we're at it, why not bring in Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut, who is an absolute stooge, all right? Say anything, has no principles, has no character, has no boundaries, doesn't care, right? He defended Joe Biden over and over again. And now Joe Biden has come on saying... And said, well, I think my husband might have been having a stroke during that infamous debate meltdown against Donald Trump back in June of 24, before he was basically tossed out of the race by Nancy Pelosi and her goons, right? Well, just listen to what Chris Murphy said then and what he's saying today. These people have no soul. Listen.
Joe Biden is incredibly competent and he's incredibly effective. And this partisan hit job by somebody that is looking for
That's a Democrat we just played.
No, I'm talking about the special counsel who's looking for a better job in the next Trump administration is not going to dissuade Americans who actually see what the real world impact on their lives is of Joe Biden's administration.
But you know there is a difference here that we're talking about. Your fellow Democrat was talking about the ability to go out there and campaign. Is there a problem here?
There's not a problem. This president is going to be able to sell a record that is extraordinary. I know that he is ready for this campaign. I have seen how effective he has been up close and personal, and I'm not going to let my constituents be distracted by a special prosecutor who's trying to gain favor within the MAGA movement.
How do you convince the public that Democrats are telling the truth now?
Yeah, listen, I think Democrats do have to be honest about the mistakes that we made in 2024. Obviously, in retrospect, Joe Biden should have stepped away from that race. We should have had an open contest.
You mean the guy who you said was completely competent and on top of his game and an incredible, executive? Really, Senator? Yeah, it'd be nice if politicians were honest. Based on that, they are not, right? Pretty remarkable stuff. Well done, Chris Murphy, for being a complete stooge. Oh, Lord. I'll be back after this. right, let's bring in my next guest, Katie Hyde, the news director for MichiganNewsSource.com, my news company that's out there finding the most important news across the great state of Michigan, which I call home. And it's important because local voices are disappearing so fast that people don't have a connection to their communities anymore. But Michigan News Source gives you that. Katie, good morning.
Good morning. And Steve, I know this isn't Michigan based, but I think today, during all the pockets of time that I might have throughout my day, I'm going to be following that LA mayoral race. It's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fascinating. Does Pratt pull that off? And of course, the race for governor in California is also huge today, too. It is who finishes in the first two places. Apparently, Becerra is leading in the polling, but I don't know if that's true. He did nothing as a secretary in Biden's administration. I mean, literally nothing. Anyhow. I digress. Let's talk about what's going on here. Jocelyn Benson running for governor in Michigan. I think the primary is, August the 6th. And she has some long-time ties. In fact, she worked for the Southern Poverty Law Center at the time that they were buying the faithfulness of the Ku Klux Klan while attacking the Ku Klux Klan, among others. It's messy, Katie, to say the least. What can you tell us?
It is messy, and it's a story that's not going away. So this week, we reported exclusively that her ties to the Southern Poverty Law Center, questions over that continue to swirl, and now a nonpartisan watchdog group is questioning what her role was in that and what she knew when she served on the board from 2014 to 2018. We reported that Democracy Restored, this watchdog group, has sent a letter to the Michigan Attorney Grievance Commission to look into potential ethics violations by Jocelyn Benson. And you're right. What happened is the Southern Poverty Law Center propped itself up as this voice to the oppressed and fighters of injustice. And what they were doing is funding groups like the Ku Klux Klan and white supremacy groups, inciting violence, encouraging these violent rallies, and then swooping in and saying, now we're going to fix the problem. And so this is under a federal indictment, and looking at how they used that to take donor funds and then funnel them through other fictitious bank accounts. And so Jocelyn Benson keeps having these calls come for honesty and to tell us what you knew when you served on the board, and still nothing. I did read something today where perhaps she has claimed that she didn't know what was going on at that time. I need to follow up on that, but her silence speaks volumes over not addressing this. And it's not going away because the Michigan House is asking her some questions too. And with all of these issues kind of piling on her back, the fact that she will be overseeing her own election raises some questions too.
Yeah, overseeing her own election in a state where we've got lots of questions. In fact, they continue to tumble out from 2020, 2022, 2024. I mean, it's not going anywhere. All right,
real quick, I'm so sorry, Steve. In fairness, she has come out and said, I am putting up a firewall so that it takes away any appearance of impropriety. And the Michigan House has said, well, we'd like to codify that and put it in writing. So you can't just say it. We're going to make you do it. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, that won't play out because they don't have the Senate, and the Democrats will protect Democrats.
That is correct.
That's
right.
my guess. All right, we've seen this story before. Invalid signatures. During the last gubernatorial race, several candidates were disqualified when a group was out there turning in signatures that were completely fraudulent. We know that knocked Perry Johnson out last time and others. Now Ralph Rebant says his signatures are good, but he was not qualified for the ballot. Do tell.
That's correct. Last week, the state canvassers met to review the recommendations based on the board of canvassers. You need a certain number of signatures in order to qualify for the ballot, and they do the sampling. They've been doing it for a while to test the validity of the signatures, and they said to Kim Thomas, who was a Democratic candidate, that she had invalid signatures, so they kept her from being on the ballot. And the same is true with Rebant. Well, late last night, he said he is challenging that. He's taking that ruling, that determination, to the Court of Appeals, and says that the sampling is not based on law, that last year the parameters that had been set up for determining signature validity and all of that went away under this new law. And so he's challenging it and saying these signatures are valid and see you in court.
And so is he asking that they go through all the signatures, not just a sampling of signatures to say whether or not he's got what he needs? Apparently, they submitted 17,976 signatures. No, Jonathan Brader did. Reband submitted 18,214. But those that were sampled were deemed, many of them, invalid. And so they just do a sample and say, well, the whole batch is disqualified. Is he asking for the whole batch to be counted? I guess that's my question.
It appears that he may, since it's going to the Court of Appeals. I can't speak with certainty on that, but I think that does make sense, Steve. If he's saying the sampling was off, then he would ask for them to look at all of the tens of thousands of signatures that he had there. But we will wait and see how this plays out, because the primary is coming, and it's coming fast.
Yeah, the Court of Appeals, where cases go to die. I hope they're timely about it, because obviously it's important with the August 6th primary coming up. And obviously they have to print ballots prior to that. So there's all sorts of complications. Last word to you, Katie.
We're working on a lot of good stuff, some investigations. And so if you want good Michigan-based news, head to MichiganNewsSource.com.
Well done. Give her a round of applause there, Anthony. Well done. Katie, thank you as always.
Thank you.
There it is. Katie Hyde, MichiganNewsSource.com. Look, local news sources are, they're going away. Support the home team, if you would, please. MichiganNewsSource.com. Investigations and stories you don't get anywhere else. It's incredibly important to support the local news outlets so that you have access to stories you would not otherwise find. Certainly not on some of those left-leaning outlets that shall remain nameless. I'll take a break and be right back. Well, Hassan Piker, the poster child for hating America and hating Israel and everything else, has been barred from going to the UK. The United Kingdom says, no, thank you. The UK says, we're not interested in having you here. And Piker told his loyal following that British authorities denied his electronic travel authorization, preventing him from traveling to the United Kingdom for a series of scheduled appearances, including events at South by Southwest London at the Oxford Union. Approved U.S. travelers to the U.K. can enter the country with a simple electronic travel authorization, which is easier to get than a formal visa. I've been banned from the U.K. I've been to the U.K. on numerous occasions, and all of the things they're complaining about now are things I've said before. It's effing ridiculous, Mr. Piker said. And then, of course, he blamed Israel and Jews, because that's what he does. And that's where we are with it. He blamed Israel and Jews for him and his behavior, getting him barred from the UK. Well, so it is. So last night I slept like a stone. Look, the ghost bed has been a tremendous addition to our household. It really has. Ivy and I just sleep great. We've had it for 3-4 months now, and once again, my ring gave me a great score for my sleeping, which I monitor every day. And Ghost Bed is an American-made product. It's not just a mattress. It's an American-made sleeping system. And look, we love it, and you're going to love it. And they'll give you 101 days to decide. And if you don't like it, which I don't know why you would, but wouldn't, but if you don't like it, you can send it back risk-free. In fact, they'll come pick it up from your house. If you don't like it, you say, look, it didn't work for me. And they'll be like, fine, let's pick it up. And that's what they do. And so that's what we have, the Ghost Bed. Love it. Ghostbed.com. Promo code is Gruber, of course. And you can get the best price of the year for this American-made mattress system. Support the home team. Sleep better. Age better. Feel better. Ghostbed.com. Promo code is Gruber, right? 10% off for you, my audience. Ghostbed.com. Promo code Gruber. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back to it as we jump right back into it. We've got a lot to cover here today, as we do every day. Look, the bottle bill came into Michigan in 1976, right? The bottle bill came into Michigan in 1976. There was a lot of pushback at that time. The retailers didn't like it. It creates a mess in their stores and so forth. But I can tell you from where I stand, it seemed to clean up Michigan roadsides. It was 10 cents. It was more than any place in the country. And it seemed to clean up roadways in Michigan. Bill Wild is the president and CEO of the Midwest Independent Retailers Association. They say it's time to change the bottle bill. Bill, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Nice to be back on the show.
Nice to have you back. Some people like it. Some people certainly do not. The retailers don't, because they have to have this section in their store. And look, you bring in stale beer bottles and stale beer cans and so forth, and they're kind of gross, right? That's part of the problem, isn't it?
That's a big part of the problem, and that's where MAHA is starting our push. Is our retailers universally want to get this out of their stores? Steve, they've wanted to get out of their stores for decades. With the recent U of M study that shows that the participation rate of the bottle bill has gone from 95% down to 70%. We think now is the perfect time to start the conversation about moving this bottle bill, returnables out of the stores, which were never meant to be de facto recycling centers, and into the more modern recycling stream.
So how many people participate in we have curbside recycling here at our house, and we have one of those roadside little dumpster deals you put your recycling in. What's the participation rate in those or in other recycling centers? Up in our northern compound, you have a place, you just take all your cardboard, your plastic, your glass, you take it over there. There's a different receptacle for each kind of product. A lot of people seem to use it, but I have no idea the participation rate. Do you have any idea?
Well, with this recent U of M study I mentioned, they showed that 65% of Michigan's communities do have curbside recycling now, and 75% of Michigan's communities have access to recycling. So during COVID, when you could not take your bottles back, I think people's behavior started to change, and they started putting them in the recycling bin or putting them in their garbage container. So the behavior's already changed. In the bottle bill, like you mentioned in your opening, that it was originally put in place to clean up the roadsides, and I think that it did a good job. And we changed behavior, and people know if you throw something on the roadsides, you're going to get a big fine now too. So I think the behavior's changed, and I think that now is the time that we can start talking about. There's got to be a better way to do this, and 40 states in the country do it different than returning them to the stores. So I know it can be done.
So 10 states do still have returnables. They're all 5 cents from what I can tell, because all the bottles and cans have the little returnable numbers on them. Michigan at 10 cents, I think, is still higher than anybody else. Is that correct?
Yeah, in no other country, or I'm sorry, no other state has put in a bottle bill in the last 25 years. So this is the old way of doing things, and I think now when people look for a community to live in, I think people expect the community to have some sort of recycling. So things have changed a lot in the last 50 years. Public policy doesn't typically last for 50 years. This one did, so I give everybody credit that worked to make this work. But the retailers are united that the time is now to get this dirty, expensive process out of their stores.
So what happens to the 25% of the state that doesn't have access to recycling? What do they do?
Well, that needs to be part of the conversation. Last year, according to the U of M study, $116 million in deposits were left unclaimed that go back to the state of Michigan. So there is money in the system to start addressing that. A lot of other states that do have deposits have drop-off centers because that way the state can still bring in revenue to pay for those drop-off centers. So I think that it may not be a one-size-fits-all that fits the state, but I think between curbside recycling and some drop-off centers, we could do a much better job.
Could you explain that to me? $116 million in unclaimed deposits last year, 2025. And you said that goes to the state of Michigan. What do you mean by that?
So the retailers collected 10 cents and they send it into the state. And then when they collect bottles back, the bottle distributors credit their invoices for that. So in 2024, $116 million worth of those 10-cent deposits never got claimed. So those end up in the state coffers. The state has been using some of those funds to do brownfield cleanup sites, which was not part of the original bottle bill. And there is a small portion of that that goes back to retailers that take in a lot more bottles than they actually sell, but that's a minimal amount. So it's kind of turned into a cash cow for the state. So
Therein lies
be
the problem, Bill. And that's what I was going to say. There's your problem because the state gives us over $100 million to do with it as they please, as politicians often do. So how are you going to convince the folks in Lansing to give up $100 million and do something different?
Well, we're having discussions with the state now, kind of behind the scenes, and it's almost everybody we talk to agree that we have to get this out of the stores. The deposit piece is going to be the part that the state's going to have a hard time giving up. So more than likely, the solution is going to include some sort of drop-off center so that the deposit can stay in place.
So they'll keep the deposit, just won't put it on the retailers? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, well, my guess is they'll have to use the deposits to pay for the recycling centers. Getting it out of the retailers, that's our number one priority. Actually, even more so than that is just to kill any talk of expanding this bill. There's been a lot of talk in the past about expanding it, the water bottles and other products. So we're certainly 100% against that. But if we can start that conversation and bring the stakeholders together to come up with a solution that the environmentalists can live with, that the state can live with, and the retailers can live with, that's what we're trying to do.
So you've got a bit of a tussle here, it seems, Bill, because you've got factions that want to expand it to all beverage containers, is what I'm hearing, not just water, but sports drinks or energy drinks or whatever it might be, right? Interesting. So where are you in the process, and how do you get it done? Last word to you.
So we're still building the coalition. We're lining up a lot of people that do not want to expand this or that do want to get it out of the stores. We're starting to meet with environmental folks that spent a lot of time on this in the past. Our thought is with the new governor coming in office, with a new legislature starting in January, that's the time that we're going to want to be active legislatively.
All right, Bill. Always good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you for being here. We'll keep an eye on it, and you get back to us when there's an update, please.
You got it. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, sir. It worked at one time. Maybe it doesn't work anymore. What do you think about expanding it to water bottles and everything else you buy at the store? Good idea? Bad idea? Where do you come down on it?
Bad idea.
Do you return stuff, Anthony? Do you save them and return them?
Not anymore. It's kind of a lot to have a bunch of just cans and bottles sitting around.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people are. All right, when we come back, we'll ask Ivy where she's throwing her trash. No, we won't. But we'll talk to her after this. All right, let's jump right back into it. The one and only Ivy is joining us again. Ivy, it's nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you as well, Steve.
All right.
It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I have to play you something. You and I have seen this with our own two eyes because we've been to national parks. We've been to Yellowstone National Park, right?
Oh, yeah.
And people are just stupid, all right?
Hey, listen, life is tough. It's tougher when you're stupid.
Exactly. Life is hard.
Well, when you do stupid things, yes.
Oh, my Lord. Intentionally stupid things. The thing that they tell you when you go into Yellowstone National Park, be careful of this and this and this. The number one thing to be careful of are the bison. They look harmless. They're big, dumb animals.
Steve.
But they're big. They weigh 2,000 pounds, the big bulls.
Is that being careful, like what you did to me one time? Is
he sniffed
drive
the car
right next to it and park. And as I was looking up directions home, didn't realize it and looked over, and this thing is nearly in my window like that.
You could smell its breath. But the car was protecting you. No danger. But
the car is not going to protect me from that thing.
From a 2,000-pound bison, you think it's a car.
Exactly.
Might dent the car.
Anyhow,
but
continue.
Every year, bison kill and injure more people than any other animal in any other national park. It's just a fact. Yeah. And yet every year we get to see video. I want to share a video with you, Ivy. A woman goes out to see the bison, then she realizes, oh, it's bad. She's in a long dress. She runs away. Here's what happens next.
Oh, she fell to the ground. Do you record it?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
bam.
Do you record it?
Okay, super slow-mo.
Just those guys laughing is hilarious.
What? Dun, 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 dun. All right,
listen, every time we go there, we see this.
Yeah.
We saw a woman, I believe with her kid, if memory serves, going up to a sow bear and her two babies, which is the most dangerous place to be.
Dumbest thing you can do.
Maybe other than a cow moose with her babies.
Yeah,
they'll just stomp you to death.
Things you don't do. Well, see, people think that it's Disney or something. I don't know. Anyhow,
I think maybe they're tame because it's a national park, but these are wild animals.
That's right. And for anybody who didn't actually see the video, the woman's running in her dress and she falls and she toes face first into the pavement, trying to get away from a buffalo. It's like, geez.
Oh,
maybe that'll knock some sense into you. And maybe it won't because, people are stupid. Like you said, life is hard. It's harder when you're stupid. All right?
Well, actually, the other time, I think it might have been the same trip, you were coming out of the restroom and we had stopped at a place and there was a whole group of bison. And so I could not get to you because
they snuck up.
I was in the car and you were at the bathroom and you were trying to walk to me. And I'm like, I can't get to you. There's a herd of bison.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just wait.
It was kind of an eye-opener. You go and you use the restroom at one of these roadside deals in the park, and you walk out and say, whoa! They're like 15 feet away. I'm like, okay, I'm back in the restroom, peeking out the door,
Right. Well, I want to play you something really quick, too. So in 2001, Jeremy Clarkson, as you know him well,
I do,
showed a NASA generating artificial clouds. And Anthony, you can play this now.
Worry if you can't hear what I'm saying. I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And as it turns out, the cleanest.
Wow.
The most amazing thing is that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain.
That's taking nature manipulation a step further.
I told you. It's raining. That's unbelievable. Oh. NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
Well, that was 2001.
Where did you find that?
It just popped up on social media. I found it.
That is incredible.
Yeah, and I would imagine that is what we would think of as cloud seeding, wouldn't you?
Well, that's cloud creation.
Or cloud creation.
Yeah, cloud seeding is when they put stuff into the atmosphere to work with the clouds that already exist. They're creating clouds. And what else is in that cloud when they create? Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That's remarkable.
So let's see, how long ago?
2001, 25 years.
25 years.
And so how far have they come since then? Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting, isn't it?
Plus 25 years. And so the chemtrail audience ought to be thrilled with that. We've got to put that up on social media today.
Okay.
We've got to put that.
What do you make of this?
I've never seen anything like it. I mean, in all my travels across social media and videos and YouTube and all the places I wander about looking for the best information for this program, I have never seen that.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Nor have I, which is why I wanted to share it with you and our audience so you can take a look at that, maybe do a little research and see what we can find out.
I want to bring to their attention one other thing. We got about a minute here, and I want to bring their attention to what we did yesterday. Dr. Robert Malone was with us on the podcast, and boy, was he incredible. And we talked mostly about ticks, Lyme disease, alpha-gal syndrome, and all of these ticks that are propagating, and these diseases. He says it's military bioengineering.
Well, there was a case in, what was it? It was 1999. Is that the year that it was? No, it was in the 60s, wasn't it?
When they created the ticks to go into Cuba.
Yeah, so they
1960s.
bioengineered ticks that were infected with Lyme disease, and they put them in the sugarcane farms of Cuba.
To try to debilitate the workers.
To try to debilitate the workers and crash the economy there, because sugarcane is such a huge crop for them. For the economy.
You've got to hear this.
So you need to go listen in to this podcast because it is very eye-opening. So again, going back to, if they had this technology in the 1960s, my gosh.
What are they doing now?
Right.
And who do you trust?
Right.
Go to YouTube, look up Steve Gruber. You'll find the Forgotten America podcast. It is Dr. Robert Malone. It's coming next week, I believe. We're going to check our schedule. It was so compelling and so interesting and so timely. We're going to get it done for you. Ivy, love you.
I love you. I'm grateful for you, Steve.
And I'm grateful for you. Thank you. We'll be right back with final thoughts. right, welcome back. All right, so the war in Iran is just over 90 days old now. The president keeps saying that we're on track for peace, and yet nothing seems to change. The ceasefire is what, about a month old now? And yet, no resolution. Iran says one thing and then says something else. Tomorrow on the program, Joe Kent is going to be here. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because he was a National Counterterrorism Center director. And he resigned in March of this year, he said, because of the involvement in Iran and Israel's influence on America's foreign policy. A very interesting fact about Joe Kent is that his wife was killed by a suicide bomber, an ISIS bomber, back in 2019. And he said that he just could not continue with what was going on in Iran. But on other issues, he is in the right place. He says border security is national security. He said that some of the biggest threats to our security, China. But he walked away from the Trump administration because of the joint U.S.-Israel strikes that launched the war the 28th of February. And he said Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. That has been a criticism from others as well. But this comes from, like I said, the former head of the Counterterrorism Center. So Joe Kent will be on the program tomorrow. You'll want to catch that. Should be an interesting conversation, to say the least. And we'll see what he has to say. He has his critics, but he has his supporters, too. That's why we're putting him here for you to decide. Fight the good fight and keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is Daybreak. And remember, only you can save America.